Some songs are just songs. But every once in a while, a piece of music comes along that becomes so much more. It becomes a cultural moment. Today, we're going to break one of those down, see how a single track captured a global feeling so perfectly that it just exploded online. And maybe, in figuring that out, we'll understand our own recent past a little better. So, it all starts with this number, 24 million. That's how many times the song The Aftermath by Terence J Hughes was streamed in just 3 months. I mean, that is a huge number for any artist. But what makes this story so wild is what this song isn't. Yeah, this was not some polished, radio-friendly pop hit, not even close. It's a raw, kind of dystopian track that came right out of the pandemic. It completely skipped all the traditional channels, no radio play, nothing. It just spread organically, listener to listener. This wasn't a marketing success. It was a straight-up cultural phenomenon. Which brings us to the big question, right? How on earth does a dark, challenging song become a viral anthem for millions of people? The answer, it turns out, has nothing to do with a big marketing budget or some catchy pop hook. The reason it went viral is because it somehow managed to become a mirror. It reflected this deep, unspoken, and pretty universal anxiety that was just simmering under the surface for so many of us after a global crisis. It just gave a name to a feeling we all had but couldn't quite put our finger on. So, to really get how it pulled this off, let's dive into the lyrics. The first piece of this puzzle is how the song just immediately connects with that profound sense of disorientation we were all feeling. Look how simple and direct this line is. The world's turned on its head. It's not trying to be poetic or complicated, it's just a blunt statement of fact that almost everyone on the planet could relate to. It just perfectly captures that initial shock, that feeling that the basic rules of life had been totally rewritten without asking us. And then, right away, it builds on that. This line takes it from a personal feeling of confusion to something much bigger, a systemic collapse. The systems, healthcare, government, our social structures, they all felt like they were failing, or at least stretched to the absolute limit. It's that gut-wrenching feeling that the safety nets you always just assumed would be there were gone.
And here it is, the final part of this initial breakdown. When the systems fail, what do you have left? Trust. And this line says that was gone too. The collapse of institutions went hand in hand with a collapse of information. It created this feeling that you couldn't even tell what was real anymore. So right there, the song lays out this three-stage crisis: our personal confusion, the system failing us, and truth itself just evaporating.
But the song doesn't just sit in that darkness. The real emotional heart of this thing lives in the tension between that despair and this desperate need for connection. And this contrast shows that conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got the wish. Hope, I see you in the aftermath. It's such a simple human desire, right? A prayer to just see someone again, for things to go back to normal. But it's always being pulled back down by the harsh reality on the other side. Chance, I may not meet you at all. This constant back and forth between hope and chance, well, that's everything. That is the feeling of trying to make plans for a future when you are painfully aware that the future is totally up in the air. It's like making a promise you have no idea if you can actually keep. This lyrical tug-of-war, that is the sound of post-crisis anxiety.
All right, so let's pull all these threads together and finally answer our original question. Why did this song connect so deeply with 24 million people?
Well, it's because it put words to, point by point, the exact anxieties that defined that whole period. It nailed our collective disorientation, our loss of faith in the systems that were supposed to protect us, that struggle in a world where you didn't know what was true, and that constant, nagging uncertainty about what was coming next. Every line gave a voice to a fear we were all quietly holding inside. And that's the real takeaway here. For millions of people, probably listening all by themselves, this song did something incredibly powerful. It told them they weren't crazy for feeling the way they did. And that kind of validation, man, that matters. It takes an anxiety that makes you feel totally alone and turns it into a shared experience. It proves we weren't going through it by ourselves after all.
This song was one piece of art that helped a lot of people make sense of a really difficult time. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What art, maybe a song, a movie, a book, what helped you navigate it all? What was your anthem for the aftermath?